Welcome to the Better Two podcast. I'm your host, Donna. Today's guest is a returning singer, SHARI ROWE. Today we talk about her new music coming out, loss of her mother, and, well, even mentoring in a new radio show that she's got. So tune in. Hi, SHARI. How are you doing today?
Great, Donna. How are you?
I'm doing good. I saw your lovely photo shoot you did on Instagram that, you posted. So when was that taken? I know it was in Arizona.
Yeah, it was in Arizona over at the base of the Superstition Mountains. It was early in December, getting ready to launch new campaigns. So we needed new photos, new music coming out, all that. So I love Arizona. I mean, you know that we've talked before, and
Mhm.
and growing up here it's a very special place. But that particular place for that shoot, it just felt magical. I mean, the day was it wasn't super cold because of course it's Arizona, but it was a little crispy and it was just bright and clear and the colors just seemed to be popping out everywhere and the sun was dancing off of everything. It was so fun. It was actually a really fun shoot.
It looked like you had a lot of fun. Then yesterday you happened to tag me in a video where you were walking, you were getting your new year going, and
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
you have a lot of good things coming. But like you said off camera, it's been a while since we talked. So what have you been doing, like in the last couple of years? That now I know you're about to step into the studio. What have you been doing in the last 2 years that has inspired the new music that's coming?
Well, a few different things. I feel like life has kind of taken me on a journey that was unexpected, as so often happens in life for all of us. My mom passed away in June, and thank you. Yeah. And, my sister and I were very hands-on in her care at the end of life. And of course, family always takes priority. And it was a very difficult season, but it was also a beautiful season. And, when I get to that point, as we all will, like I can only hope and pray that I can be given such grace and mercy. It was actually a beautiful transition for her. And so, we've been processing that and really coming together as a family to grieve and heal and move on. And of course, that, any kind of life experience like that, as a creative person, it's going to open different windows and doors to your heart. And earlier, before my mom passed, I had been closely working with a really good friend of mine and fellow musician, Stephen Bowman, who is the fiddle player in my band. And he's extraordinary. I mean, he's just such a talent in his own right. He's also an indie Americana singer-songwriter. And he had approached me about, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Hold on. Okay. Do we need to?
No, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right.
Life
Thank you.
happens.
It does. So Bowman had approached me with this idea he had for a project. And it had to do with the houses that he grew up in and the different stages of his life and kind of telling the story of his emotional journey and what each house represented as far as the season of his life. And so we co-wrote that project together and put it out. I also co-produced it and sang background vocals on it. And it was my first time producing for another artist and actually really being truly the co-writer on the whole project. And it was such a beautiful experience for me. Of course, because I care about Bowman. He's a close friend. So it was cool to kind of unpack those things with him. But it also made me realize that I was able to be more vulnerable when writing for someone else than I am for myself.
Hmm.
So going through kind of these different seasons in my life, this new music that I'm working on, my top priority has been, looking at it and not being so guarded and kind of letting more vulnerability show in my writing. I feel like that's always a good thing because that's most relatable.
Right.
So yeah, so that's been cool. We that came out. He released a few singles, at different times, and I actually went out to Nashville and played a bunch of shows with him and celebrated the release of that. And also in the meantime, working on my own music and signed a new management deal. So there's been a lot of things in the works. I'm more diversified than I've been in a while. I'm also a radio host, so we can talk more about
Nice,
that.
nice.
Starting a new radio show that's actually launching this Sunday night
Awesome.
on 96.3 Real Country, based out of Arizona here. But so that's exciting too. So lots of things in the works, and now we're kind of ready to launch a lot of these things and talk about them and see them actually come to fruition.
Well, congratulations on the radio gig. But I do want to circle back to the house thing because it's
Yeah.
interesting because I don't think people really look at houses as a transitional thing. But I went through this last year because um, I sold the house late last year. I sold my house that I had with my husband. We bought it together.
Mm.
We lived together, and he passed away in 2020. And it was like the last piece of that part of my life. And
I'm sorry.
the interesting thing is I had to term it to, I left my we house to have a me house.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
because once you're with somebody for so long, and I don't think we really discussed that, but once you're with somebody for so long in a relationship for at least 5, 10 years, which we
Mm.
had close to 18,
Wow.
and the fact is, we make the mistake of constantly saying, even after they're gone, well, we have this, and we did this, and we
Oh,
did that. And
sure.
it's like, so now I consciously try to say, I. And me
Mm.
because it's like you
Yeah.
you have to deprogram. So it's like that was my wee house. And yes, if you have a childhood home, one home, then that becomes your childhood home. It was like when my grandmother sold the house, her house. That was the
Right.
only house I had from my childhood as an adult that was still intact.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's something to process for sure. And you're really, you're brave stepping into the saying I and me instead of we, that because that's a whole new journey. And it's so right that you have to fully accept that and step into it. But I'm sorry for your loss, and that's brave to do that, and I'm glad that you're working towards that. But yeah, I mean, the home we grow up in isn't obviously about the house itself, you know. The stories that came to life in this project were so deeply personal, and each home represented different feelings and different things that Stephen was learning as he was growing up, the way we chose to do it, each house was obviously on a different street, and we named the songs after the street names. So, example, Sunset, it was on Sunset Street, and that happened to be the house where he felt very nostalgic, and he remembers his family laughing, and he remembers the kids running through the halls and the cousins, and he remembers the way the light kind of came in through the window a certain way in that house, and he managed to pull up pictures of each home to incorporate that into the covers and the marketing for each song. But that song is very reassuring. So we wrote that song as if the house was speaking to him, encouraging him to wake up and face the day, and just the comforting feeling of seeing the light come through and dance on the wooden floors and feeling the warmth of that underneath your feet. And that home was very comforting to him. And then, another example, in contrast, because there were several songs, but in contrast, Brittany was the most recent one to come out. And that one was where he was kind of coming of age, and he had that kind of teenage angst, and he was asking himself who he really was and trying to figure out his place in the world. And so that one had more of an edge to it. And the one of the lines in the chorus is, Brittany, why'd you trick me? I
Mhm.
thought you'd keep me safe. And he's speaking to the house in that one. So yeah, we kind of dove into all of those emotions. They're real for all of us.
Well, and I think that, there is a saying in certain groups that your house has a spirit. Your house has a
Mhm.
spirit, and nobody really
Yeah,
pays attention to that spirit. When you're talking,
right.
like my grandmother's house, when my grandmother was getting rid of her house, I was like the last person because I lived out of state. I was the last person to get there, and she had this antique mirror. And
Yeah.
she was like, I was going to give that to your sister. I'm like, but you're giving your wedding rings to my sister. She goes, yeah. She goes, but why do you want that? Why do you want that mirror? I got it for free with some furniture.
Yeah.
I said, because that mirror was over the dinner table at
Mm.
holidays, and that represented when the whole family was together.
Oh my
because
God.
eventually my family divorced, my parents divorced, my uncle and aunt divorced. So that was the last time that the family truly was a family.
Oh, I have chills thinking about that.
And
I
she
get
she
that.
didn't get it initially, and when my cousin found out I had it still before she passed away, she was just like, "I am so thrilled that you understand the meaning behind that."
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful.
Because
I
most
get it.
most people think, "Oh, it's just a mirror," but
Mm-mm.
as a kid, when something resonates with you, you hold it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
powerful.
how did the radio gig come about?
Well, I signed, as I mentioned, the new management deal. My new manager, Dennis Petty with DDP Worldwide. I was actually putting together a fundraising show, and I was looking for someone to do an acoustic opening set before our full band set. And I wanted it to be somebody that had ties to Arizona. And I kind of asked around a little bit, and Chauncey Jones came up a few different times. And so I thought, yeah, he's a great fit. Let's do it. And so I went to reach out to him, and he said, yeah, if you don't mind calling my manager, that's, he's the one that's going to handle that. So he gave me Dennis's info, and I called Dennis and I set everything up for that show. But in the meantime, started kind of asking Dennis because we hadn't met and I hadn't heard of what he was doing in Arizona. And I was really intrigued. And he lives kind of on the complete opposite side of town from where I live. And I said, on another note, Dennis, you're over there doing that, and I'm over here, I'm based in Arizona, and I feel like we should connect and just talk about what we're both doing. I feels like we should know each other. So my husband Kevin and I met he and his wife Diana for lunch the next week. And that lunch turned into like a 3 hour lunch, and we just hit it off. And we sat down, and he said, so like, why are we here? And Diana said, yeah, when he said Sherry wants to meet, I thought, well, Sherry has her own thing going on. Like, why does she want to meet? And I said, I'm not really sure either. I said, at minimum, we become friends. I said, but let's just chat. And our friendship just, it felt like we had known each other forever. And we thought we could make a great team. So Dennis started representing me as my manager in my career, and that has opened really wonderful doors to shows and different. My career has blossomed because of the efforts that he's putting in. It's really cool to kind of have. I've never had a management team. I've had great PR. I've had great radio promotion. I work with a lot of great people on recording and writing and all the different facets of what I do. But I haven't had a manager kind of like in my corner, kind of really pushing my career along. And it's been great to see everything unfold. Through the process, I began to learn he and his wife both have such a passion for Southwest and Arizona, like I do. And he really believes in the music scene here. Um, I have a great community in Nashville, and there are lots of other music towns, so to speak, around the country, Austin, and but unfortunately, Arizona has kind of gotten known for having a lot of bar bands, but not a lot of original music, which it's a reputation, but it's not the truth. There are a lot of really talented songwriters and original artists that come from here in the Southwest. And so Dennis began kind of really focusing on launching those artists and giving them, putting a spotlight on what they're doing. So he formed the Arizona Desert Country Music Association. He has monthly songwriters rounds and events to highlight original music, much like they do in Nashville. He's really kind of facilitating that. And in the process of doing that, he went to Mike Barna, the owner of 96.3 Real Country here in Arizona, and he said, I have an idea for a radio show. Do you think you'd get behind celebrating Arizona artistry? I mean, we have a lot of talented musicians here and artists who are building careers, and they're touring, and they're on the radio, and they're successful. So Mike ended up saying, I have been waiting for years for somebody to take that on. And it's something that Mike evidently was passionate about. And he said, absolutely, I'm behind it 100%. So we have a studio here at the house, and I helped, and my husband helped. And my husband is an integral part of the production and editing side of everything with the radio show. And we kind of put together a demo show and sent it over to the station. And Mike went back to Dennis and said, "This is great." I kind of chimed in on being on that demo.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think Sherry should be one of the hosts. I think you and your wife Diana and Sherry should be, Diana can be the like the main host. Dennis can be comic relief, and Sherry can be the color commentator and kind of give industry insight. And so it began, and we started interviewing different artists around town. And each show will feature a different artist from here in Arizona. And it's kind of formatted in the way where we play about 5 or 6 of their original songs. They'll play something live for us. And in between, because it's not a talk show, it's mostly music.
Mm-hmm.
We are highlighting country legends and different artists who have influenced this particular artist's career. And it's turned out to be really interesting. And it's been so great to hear the backstory from so many artists that I've maybe met in passing, just, coming on stage or off stage and just saying a quick hello and seeing just social media. It's been such a joy to kind of get in kind of the position that you're in. I'm not often in that spot where I'm asking the questions. And it's been really fun, and it's really been enriching to build the relationships too, because inevitably you build a bond and you
Yeah.
get to know somebody, and it's special. And so the first show launches this Sunday night. We've got the 1 hour slot every Sunday night from 7 to 8. And it's turning out already it's getting a lot of buzz. All the big local news has been covering it, and we're excited about it. Yeah.
Can they listen to it on the internet?
Yes, 96.3 has a very large internet presence. So they reach about, I'm told, at that hour between 4 to 600,000 from the station, but then their streaming audience is much larger than that. It's kind of cool because Arizona is its own thing, and this truly is the West. And the listenership around here does kind of lean towards more traditional country music and Americana. And that's not necessarily the case in Nashville or
Right.
other places. So the streaming audience is intrigued. They want to hear the music coming out of the West.
So as we move from that to you walking into the studio, and we're not talking the radio studio, we're talking about you walking into the studio. I'm sure your mother's
Yeah,
death has some influence on some of your music now.
absolutely 100%. It's before she passed, I had been working on a song about my dad who passed many years ago. And I had ideas for that song for a long time. And I kind of molded over. And I almost felt like it was too sacred. And I couldn't find the right words. Everything I tried to write, none of the words seemed to convey what I was feeling. And so I kept putting it on the back burner. And then I got with a co-writer friend, Tiffany Goss, in Nashville, and we worked on it for a while, and then I shelved it again. And then we brought Bowman, who I mentioned, into the mix. And that song in particular was a very important one to finish. And something that Stephen said to me, I say Bowman, I say Stephen, they're interchangeable. His name is Stephen Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But he said something very powerful to me, and it's affected my writing in general. He said, I know you're really struggling with writing this song about your dad. He goes, but you need to remember that this isn't the only song you're going to write about him. And if it doesn't say everything, that's okay, because you'll write other songs and you can, process different perspectives and emotions and just get this one out there. And so we finished it. And my mom knew that I had been working on that for a long time, and she knew everything I'm telling you. And not long before she passed, I was able to go to the long-term care facility and sing it for her by her bedside.
Nice.
And yeah, it was powerful, and it meant a lot to her, and it meant a lot to me. And I almost felt like it was a big moment for me emotionally and as a writer, to kind of cross that bridge. And it I really believe is going to help facilitate writing about losing my mom, because I'm starting to understand how to process that and articulate it. And her losing her will definitely, it'll affect everything
Oh
now,
yeah.
that is like loss,
I
it changes you forever.
I,
It does.
I lost my mom when I was 22, and the first things are that we don't really talk about is the first things are you reach for that phone because you've talked to your mom. For me, it was like at least every week. I talked to her at least every Sunday. That was just a structured thing,
Yeah.
and that phone call's not there.
You're right.
That phone call
Exactly.
is not there, and then you get used to it. And that's the thing. I don't think we are taught to process death or how to grieve or how to handle the loss of death. Some people, and yeah, my dad and I still get ticked off because my sister was murdered by her husband, and he killed the kids too. But my dad, and she was my half sister, my dad, when I asked him about it, and maybe this was just him putting up a wall, he says,
Yeah.
well, that closes that chapter. And I'm just like, this is your child.
Ooh.
I just, so that kind of has, when I look at that, that could be somebody, because he's a boomer, and no offense to boomers, but
Right,
they
right,
don't process things. They don't deal
right,
with things. And it's like,
right.
how do you say that? And we're not taught how to deal with that. We're not taught how to deal with and granted, somebody else is supposed to have their own reaction, but we're not taught how to handle that.
We're not. No, and you're right. And I know several people who don't process very heavy things like that. And I actually had the opportunity to write a piece for the Anxiety and Depression Association of America during the holidays, and it was about grief through the holidays. And Anna with CORE said, how do you feel about doing this? I know like you're going through it. So, and it actually was very therapeutic for me to kind of speak into that, because I truly believe that if we don't process those things, that they eventually will make us sick, either mentally or physically. Like we have to, if we put it down in there and leave it there, it's going to fester. And I think it's very important for us to learn and be given the tools to process those kinds of emotions. We have to let it out. We have to learn how to move on. We have to learn how to celebrate someone's life, and it's okay to feel a little sad, maybe even forever. Like your life is never going to be the same, because that's a big loss. But there is hope and there is healing that can come. And I think it's so important. And as anytime I see somebody or know someone who is kind of stuffing those kinds of things, my heart goes out to them, honestly, because we need to get better at that.
Well, and I don't think that, we're taught that, grief is, let's go for corporate America here, 3 days and then you're back to work and everything's okay. No.
Right.
And even
Oh,
in my own journey, I mean, it's been 4 years, and there are times where I now find it actually harder at times than when he first passed.
isn't that interesting? It's true. Yeah.
And
We
I,
just
I
don't.
I just think that it's like it's never gonna be just this, okay, I'm done. And that's why I guess my dad's comment, and granted that was before my husband died, my dad's comment about that just bothered me because it's like, how do you
Yeah.
process this? I don't care if you're estranged from the person, how do you
Right.
process this?
Yeah.
And if you're not dealing with it, and I admit that there are times when I haven't fully dealt with it because being a single
Sure.
person, you have to keep going. There's only two
Yeah.
options. You keep going or
Right.
you implode.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
So
right.
I'm happy that you have your sister that is on the same journey with you. So you have
Yeah.
somebody that understands.
Yeah. It's true. It means a lot. It means a lot to have some sort of community, some sort of safety net, whoever that is. It's important to have somebody to talk to. Absolutely.
And the other thing is, when you talk about death, when I was younger, I had a friend who lost her mother to cancer. I had a friend who lost her father went to a convention. He got some kind of illness. He ended up passing 3 days later. Her mom died of a broken heart. and my
Oh,
mom died of suicide. And we all lost our parents or our mothers within about a year and a half period.
wow.
And the interesting thing is, each time one of those deaths, suicide and a car accident are very similar because they both happen very unexpectedly. You're not
Sure,
sure.
absolutely.
A long-term illness, you have time to process and prepare, but are you ever
Mhm.
really prepared?
No, no. And that's how it was with my dad.
Yeah.
It was a long-term thing. And my mom too, but my dad especially. But yeah, no, you're not. You can I don't know, it's like this, it's like a slow, I mean, I hate to say, but it's like a slow drip of like you're thinking about the loss over all this time. And yes, it does enable it gives you more time to try to get ready to to process it, but loss is still loss, and
Hmm.
you don't understand the weight and the blow. You don't understand like the heaviness of that until that transition finally happens and that person is actually gone. So yeah, it's all loss. It's all hard, no matter how, I may go through it one way, you may go through it a different way. And I think I've become more and more aware over the years of looking around the room and realizing that everybody is going through something.
Hmm.
Everyone's experiencing loss or pain or sadness, or, there are so many stories, at any given moment around us. And just trying to be understanding and sensitive to what someone may be going through.
And I think that's a big thing now is we don't look at that. We don't look at somebody might be having a bad day. You'll hear something on some kind of internet story about somebody being rude to somebody. Do you
Right.
know what was going on in their life?
Right. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. We're all humans, and sometimes if we're on an emotional overloaded period, we don't know how we're going to handle it. We don't know how we're going to deal with it.
No, you
And
don't.
if you're sitting there with somebody, talking to somebody, and somebody else has had a bad day and they're very belligerent, you got to give somebody some grace occasionally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think we're all working on that, but I think it's important. If you're just aware and you have intention and if we slow down a little bit, I think we have a better chance at kind of walking in that grace.
Well, I think that's the thing. We don't slow down anymore, and we're constantly tuned in. We're constantly plugged in. So we're always getting information constantly. And unless you actually take a step back and say, okay, I'm not gonna look at the phone for an hour or so. I'm not gonna sit here. I'm just gonna chill, you know.
Yes,
But then it comes back to then you have to face that grief. Then you have to
that's
face those
true.
problems.
Yeah.
So it's a very
Yeah.
fine line.
Yeah, it is. It's a dance. Yeah, and and being alone with ourselves and alone with our thoughts. That's a very powerful thing. It can be a really scary thing. It can be overwhelming. Sometimes it feels louder than when all the noise is happening around you, right?
Hmm.
But I think it's so important. We have to check in with ourselves. If we're not doing that, it's going to be hard for anybody to kind of break through and give us the help and encouragement that we need. We have to be kind to ourselves first, and then I think that overflows.
I think that's one thing that we are not taught. We are taught to
No.
please everybody else, be that
Oh
people
my
pleaser and
goodness.
help everybody else.
Oh
But you
yeah.
put yourself last.
Yeah, I heard something this morning that was really powerful. I've heard it before, but it really hit me, and I feel like it's appropriate for this. When we have this inner critic that's always, constantly for most of us saying, "Oh, well, you should have done this, or you didn't do that," or I do that. Um, but this person made the point, if somebody else came to you with the struggle that you're having right now, what would you say that to them? And we often find the words for others, and we know how to help them feel better in the moment and offer them advice or encouragement or support. We need to be speaking these same things to ourselves. When we lay down at night, are we making a list of everything we didn't accomplish because we are in such a fast-paced world? Let's switch that, and let's kind of make lists of what we did accomplish that day and kind of walk in gratitude. And I think those are the building blocks for success in every area, mental health and relationships, and ultimately whatever we're working on, whatever our goals are. We have to be in a more positive, loving mindset.
So, as far as the new music, let's go back to that for a second too. What else has inspired you to come up with the new songs?
It's interesting. So because of the season that I've been in, I have had a tendency to kind of really dive into those deep emotions, and that'll definitely be part of the project. But I've been co-writing with people, and I've been telling them, help me to write the upbeat stuff, because I have a lot of joy in my life, and I have so many fun things I'm doing, and I love a lot of the songs that we play as a band. I mean, my band is fantastic, just such high energy that we bring to the stage. And together we're just like this force, And I have my moments when I want to be like a singer-songwriter and kind of dive in and just have those really vulnerable kind of moments as an artist. But I want to have the big band fun too. So that's going to be on the record too. And I've learned to align myself with just the right co-writers to be able to bring that out in me, because it's in there. I just happen to be in a season where all the emo stuff is just right here.
Hmm.
So, but all the other stuff is there too. So, and when we hit the stage, our shows are big and fun, and I love to have the ebb and flow. So my goal is to take everybody on that journey, on that emotional journey, and tell the stories and lighten the load, and have people find a way at shows to feel like they're escaping a little bit or identifying, like both. I want to give people music that they can find themselves in, as always. That's always the goal. But more than ever, I just feel like I just really want to show everybody um, who I really am. And not that I didn't before, but I feel like that's a journey as an artist, as a creative, learning to really kind of unpack everything that you are. And it's okay to feel vulnerable and let that show.
Well, that's something that they've been talking about with social media, that the days of the influencer are numbered because people are seeking more authentic connections. They want people to be more real. They don't want the necessarily, oh, look at me, how pretty I am, and da 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 da. And
Right.
they want the authenticity because let's be honest, if you filter your face, you can do, everybody can do that. You're not being
Yep.
authentically you.
No.
And I often find it funny when people use filters because if I go see you live and you don't look
Yeah.
like mm-mm.
No. Excuse me? Yeah,
What happened to you?
I know.
And I think that's an issue with it's great that we have the ability to make ourselves look younger and make ourselves look flawless, but
Sure.
are you being authentic?
No, I know. And that's it can be a struggle for so many people because of just getting bombarded with all of the gosh, so much of what we see, on social media is not real, and even I have a really great makeup artist that she did the makeup for that shoot that you saw. And it's great, to do stuff that makes us feel good about ourselves. We want to present ourselves in a certain way. But, she talks about the behind the scenes of how much that of what we see is so not real, because I don't have like major, I don't like even in editing for my final photos, like the kinds of things she tells me. I mean, I cannot believe how many people literally change their body. They're like, there's so much that people can do. And I think so many people think because you can do it that you should, but it's such a dangerous trap. I can't imagine. I mean, we're all human. We're all imperfect. Um, we want to present our best, but eventually we're all headed towards the same aging and the same struggles in life, and we're all going through the same seasons. And I can't imagine fixing everything all the time and then suddenly having to face the reality, because that has to come to an end. So I don't know. That's a scary journey. I really try to make sure I don't fall into that.
But I mean, it started before. I mean, we're picking on social media, but the truth is that, I'm Gen X, and back in the day, you had all the magazines that were airbrushed. So it's like, oh, look how
Oh, heck
perfect she
yeah.
looks. Oh, I really want to look like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
You take the picture and I have had baby fine hair all my life, and I'm like, I'd really like this hair, and they just look at me and go, you don't have body. You need a
Yeah.
perm. And of course, the perm turns into a poodle perm, and it's like,
Oh my gosh.
So it never
Yeah.
worked out. And it's just like, instead of
Hmm.
them just saying, okay, you see what you see in the magazine is not real, accept yourself,
Yeah.
love yourself. And it's a
Yeah.
lesson that as a young person, we never attain because we are shown the girl in high school that's our classmate that is just Miss Perfect. And,
Right.
and you're not what everybody should aspire to be her, not you. And so that
Right.
plays with your ego
Right.
the whole
It
time.
does, it does. I think it's good that we do have the contrasting message now, at least on social media. There are, if you get, they say, what side of TikTok are you on? And all that kind of
Hmm.
thing. What's your algorithm feeding you? And it's always so refreshing to find the people who are, they'll start off a video with a filter and then turn it off and like, this is the reality, everybody. This is me and I love me. And they're promoting that authenticity. I think it's important that we listen to that and try to kind of feed that instead of feeding the other.
Well, that's why, I applaud Pam Anderson at the Golden Globes. I
Yes.
mean, she didn't have a ton of makeup on. And most
Right.
days, if you see me out in public, I have no makeup on. 95%
Yeah.
of the time, I wear no makeup, but
No.
doing this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you look at Pam back in the day, I mean, she was Glamour Girl
Oh,
City.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
applaud her for owning her aging and owning who she is.
Yeah. Me too. It's beautiful, actually. And it's brave. It
Hmm.
is. And it shouldn't have to be a brave thing, but that is just the reality of the world we live in. And I applaud her as well. I think it's really special to see someone in her position just as a real person, just putting her value in like who she is and letting people just get to know her for that.
That goes back to, though, we don't, if we don't love ourselves, how do we value ourselves and how do we respect ourselves?
Yep,
And that's
that's
that's a big thing that it's a lesson that we have to learn. And we have to
yeah.
learn it in a very, I would say, very much a hurry because so many people are
Yeah,
losing that.
it's true.
They don't value others and they don't value themselves. So it's like,
It's true. Yeah.
but then we don't value nature either. And going back to
Oh
your
my
photo
goodness.
shoot, I mean, there's
Oh,
nature that is so awe-inspiring and beautiful if you
oh my
stop and
goodness.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. And that's something that my mom definitely instilled in me. And I may have mentioned this even in our last interview, but it's something that I share a lot. She always said, I'd call her and tell her whatever it was, fill in the blank, the things you tell your mom. And she would say, Sherry, you need to go outside, you need to sit, and you need to put your face to the sun, and you need to breathe. And she was always noticing the birds singing. She was always noticing flowers blooming. She taught me to just stare at the sky and just breathe and take it all in and pause everything else. And it's so healing. I
Hmm.
mean, I love being outside way more than I love being inside. It is very inspiring, as you said, and very healing. And we don't appreciate it enough. There are gifts all around us in nature. I'm a big believer in that.
Oh yeah, I mean, when my husband and he was in dialysis, and we would drive a country road back to our house, and there's open farm fields, and I would look at the magnificent sunset, and it
Yeah.
took a lot to get used to because he really couldn't see. He was legally blind. So the
Oh,
first couple of times, like, wow, it's a beautiful sunset, and he was just like, I wish I could see it.
oh,
And that's when you start realizing that what you have is a gift, and unfortunately, so then I have to describe it to him.
oh, wow.
So it's like that's the other thing. We don't always appreciate what we have because we're healthy. And then
Yeah.
when you're facing somebody that isn't and you're living
Hmm.
with that, and I'm sure you did it with your parents, you have
Sure.
to be the one to describe and to create something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, I know. Even towards the end, I mean, right up towards the end, my sister and I would go and we'd have the nurses help and we'd get my mom in a wheelchair and we'd take her outside, because we knew how much that meant to her and we knew that she couldn't, I mean, she would literally fall asleep in the sun if like she
Mm.
would take her nap, just like I have so many pictures of her just like sitting back like that. And so we'd just take her out and even she couldn't hear very well or see very well, at the end, and we would just describe everything, and at least she could feel the fresh air and everything that meant so much to her.
So when do you think your record's going to be out?
The goal is to have at least the first couple singles out by the end of spring, and then you know how it is these days. We don't release the whole album at
Right.
once, so it'll just be a trickle of singles, and then ultimately the rest to finish the album. But that's another part of this is I'm finishing an entire album, even though it won't be all out at once. I've wanted to do that. I've done EPs and I've done singles, but it's been a long time since I put out a full album. So I want to see like 12 songs on there. I mean, you got to go through probably, gosh, I would say 60 to 80 songs to get
Oh yeah.
the really good, I'm being conservative too. I mean, I think one of the Eric Church's last project, I think they had like 160 something songs and narrowed it down to 10. I'm like, okay, but yeah, so the first couple singles by the end of spring.
Do you think you're
And
going to go ahead?
no, and if I can drop one sooner than that, I will. So,
Do you think you're going to tour?
oh yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I take it that you guys are pre-taping your radio show, so touring won't interfere with that, and you can always remotely do your part.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We've got all that in place. And if a one-off, I can't be there for one, I know that, Dennis and Diana can hold it down, but the goal is to work everything around being able to successfully keep everything going. I have days when I'm really overwhelmed and busy and I don't get through everything I needed to do, and I just take a deep breath and then somebody says, "Wow, you have a lot of really great things going on." And I just stop and I go, "Yeah, I do." And it's okay. Like it's okay if I didn't get my list finished today, and the world's not going to stop and the sky's not going to fall. Like it's all right. So at the end of the day, I'm grateful to be as busy as I am.
So we have a tour coming, we have a new record, we have singles coming, we have the radio show. Is there anything else?
Oh my goodness. Well, I am continuing to co-write and produce. Bowman just approached me a couple days ago with a new concept for his next record. So I'll be doing that. And, it's been kind of cool too to see my manager has signed a young girl who won a talent contest here in town. And I have found myself advising and mentoring some people who are just kind of getting into the industry. And I've been working with one artist, Shannon. And she's opening for a major indie rock artist here in town. And she reached out to me not long ago and said, I have all these songs and I'm going to do a lot of original music, and can you coach me? And so we've been meeting on a weekly basis and just kind of guiding her through the process of how to put on a really good show, had some vocal things that we've been working on. And that's not something I didn't sit down one day and say, I'm going to start doing this, but I love it because I love people and I love this art, and I love the songs and hearing songs come to life and then seeing talent kind of blossom. And I didn't expect people to reach out, in that way. And so it's been a joy. So that's something I think I'll be doing more of too. So
That's a blessing. I mean, I taught a writing class at the local library, and I have a friend who has taken almost everything I've taught because I've taught a lot of metaphysical classes, and she's like, out of
yeah.
everything you've taught, that is one thing you're the most passionate about. And
Uh-huh.
it's like, well, when
Yeah.
it is a passion project, just like you're describing, you're mentoring, you're watching somebody grow, you're helping. Your journey has now been able to help somebody else, and that means a lot.
It does. It means so much. It's like it's rewarding in a way that I haven't experienced before. And like Shannon's big show is coming up at the end of the month, and and she's like, I got you guys tickets. And I'm like, of course you're gonna be there. I don't care if I have to buy tickets. I'm gonna be there. And I can't wait for that moment, We're gonna be out in the crowd instead of on the stage for that one. And um it's just exciting. It is a blessing for sure.
Did it change your perspective? I mean, as a musician, does it change your perspective when you go to a show now, watching another singer up on stage? Do you critique their performance or do you just enjoy the music?
I would say I'm not really critiquing their performance. If anything, I'm overanalyzing the audio, and I'm noticing if, someone's going like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she can't hear her vocals,
Hmm.
like, or I'm just hyper aware of
Right.
everything happening up there. And if anything, I'm more sensitive and compassionate to like the moments that they're creating, trying to create. They're big, where you can tell like the audience is so engaged and you can feel it in the room. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they must be so excited right now. And um, if anything, I have a hard time. I end up critiquing the whole team that is supporting the person who is performing.
I get it. And that's kind of what I was alluding to, because it's
Yeah.
it's like once you've done something, you can't ever do it like you used to.
No, no. It's hard to just be yeah, you can't it's hard to be objective. Like you're just really caught up in all aspects of it, and yeah. But I enjoy going to shows. I love watching how other people deliver a show, and um it's just really cool to think about that. And that's something I told Shannon too, because she was talking about transitions and what songs to do when, and I said, most of what you've experienced at a show that you thought was just amazing, I'm like, it almost never happened organically. So it's sincere and it's honest, but there is planning that goes into putting on a good show and taking people on an emotional journey and a musical journey. And so we discussed that for a while too, the behind the scenes of setting up the moments,
Hmm.
they're real, and you're delivering them in a real way. It's coming from a real place, but you have to go into it prepared. Nobody that's putting on a great show is winging it.
No, no. And I think that, I mean, even if you go down to radio back in the early 90s, it was you had got to pick the songs, but it was
Yeah.
all set up to take you on a ride. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like we all until you become a creative, an actual working creative,
Yeah.
you can enjoy the ride. You can enjoy the book. You don't have to think of the
Sure.
aspect of all the work that goes on behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, most people are like,
It's
oh, a podcast. Oh, all you got to do is sit down and
uh-huh.
talk, and that's it. Oh, no, no, because I'll have
Oh
to go back
boy.
and edit, and then I'll send
Yep.
it to my voice guy and or sound guy, and he'll edit that, and then he'll get it back
Yep.
to me, and then I got to edit the video, and then I got to do all the
Yep.
other stuff. And I'm
Yep.
not complaining, but nobody ever considers any of that.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. I
I
understand.
know you do.
Yeah, and it's always fun to kind of talk the way we are right now, because when somebody does get it, it's like I know how hard you're working behind the scenes. And my husband and I were just talking about that yesterday when I was having one of my, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed moments. But having people that get it, it's really important. So you can just hear somebody say, it's okay, you got this. Like, I know what you're doing. Maybe everybody else doesn't, but I know.
I mean, because yes, you can go into the studio and you can make that record. But then you have to market it. Then you have to get on social media
Oh,
and do some videos for social media. Then you have
oh,
to go do some of these podcasts. And then
yeah.
and we're not considering local news. We're not considering newspaper or any of the other marketing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Rehearsals, making
Hmm.
set lists, doing all the business side of it, making sure everybody's, I'm negotiating contracts. There's so much. And again, like you said, I'm not complaining at all. I
No.
love it. But I think it's really cool to have somebody understand.
Well, I mean, when you're a kid, it's like for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to be a writer at one point in my life. I'm going to write a
Yeah.
book. Okay, that's all you think about. I'm going to write the book. I'm going to sing a
Yeah.
song. I'm going to sing a song and I'll record the song.
Right.
Okay, well, you got to write the song, and then you have to really hone and get the musicians and everything else, and nobody thinks about any of that.
No, and that's been part of what I've been kind of passing on to people who are just starting out. And um, sometimes people are, excited about learning about all of the aspects. And other times it can be really a hard pill to swallow, because some people really do have this idea that it's going to happen overnight, or, all of that. And it's like, gosh, so many of the people that you hear with a big hit, you didn't hear about them the month before, and you think, wow, they just popped onto the scene, and it's like, no. there's no such thing as an overnight success. It's like they call Nashville a 10-year town. It's
Hmm.
like whether you're a writer or a performer, it's usually about 10 years before people start to really hear what you're doing.
And
So,
nobody ever thinks about the business aspect either. That's the other thing. Nobody
mhm.
warns you about, because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to just do my thing. And it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
now you have all this to do, and you have to deal with the money aspect and this and this. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Receipts, all of it. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like it is a business. It's a business that is very demanding, but it's like so rewarding, I mean, we'll be out doing a show and maybe like we've all had these experiences where we have this expectation. And with shows, it very much can vary. Like you think somebody builds this event up to be whatever, and then you get there and maybe the crowd is like almost nothing, or the sound isn't right or whatever.
Hmm.
And we'll just look at each other and we're just having fun and we'll just laugh and we'll go, hey, we're getting paid to play music. So it doesn't matter how many people end up showing up or, whatever changes. It's like, it's a joy at the end of the day. I mean, we're all going to be working at something. We all have to work.
Yeah.
So if we get to do something that we love, that we're passionate about, what a blessing.
Well, that's why I think if you can find the time, because when I was working at the insurance company, I would go into this little room and I had my little floppy disk and I would put it into the one computer that we were allowed to use on lunch break.
Yeah.
And I would work on my book. And I would go
Uh,
back to my desk and do my job. When I got home, I'd work on my book.
yep.
And that's the thing,
Yes.
as long as you find something rewarding.
Exactly.
And I think
That's
that's,
true.
we get so caught up in everything else that we lose working on our creative passions.
Well, I think someone once said it to me like this: what is that thing that you love to do that you could find yourself doing it and you'll skip a meal, like you'll forget to eat, or you literally get so consumed by it that you forget everything else. That's such a huge sign of something that you should pursue. Find what you love to do and then find a way to make a living doing it. Like the money will follow. Be really good at what you love
Hmm.
and money will eventually follow. You have to just chase that purpose and that drive, what drives you. I mean, I used to clean houses. My sister and I started a cleaning business before I started making music. But I kid you not, like we would be cleaning these huge mansions, coming from the really poor side of town, going over to clean the mansions. And we literally would be working in different ends of the house and we would meet in the kitchen because one of us got an idea for a song and like we'd go our separate ways again, then we'd come back and finish a verse, and like
Nice.
we were always working on music. And so I think so many people do get caught up in the day-to-day job and they're not feeding their souls with like that thing that they were created to do, I believe. So
I agree. I agree.
yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to add?
Gosh, I think we've covered so much. It's always a joy to talk to you. And no, I think I'm excited about everything that's coming up. We covered the radio show and the new music and kind of the journey that's brought me to this place. And I'd love to touch base again when the new music starts to come out.
Definitely.
And I can't wait for you to hear it.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, thank you.
Sherry has a lot of irons in the fire, that's for sure. And I look forward to seeing what she's going to produce as far as the music. Stepping into the different hats she's wearing, we have mentor, we have producer, we have radio host, we have singer, we have songwriter. And yes, there's a theme and a thread running through all of them. But she also is somebody who wants to be authentic and genuine. And she wants to pass her knowledge on to other people. The thing about that is a huge gift in itself, because one thing that we don't necessarily always look at is the journey that we're on, the lessons that we learned. If we can pass that on to somebody else, then that's an amazing gift. I wanted to say, and I did not say, when she was talking about the fact that sometimes, we don't necessarily listen to what we're being told, or we don't hear what we're being told. When I do readings for people, there are many times when I'm sitting there reading for a client and I will get a message for the client, and that message is just as much for me as it is for them. And it's not lost on me. I'm not sitting there going, oh, well, that's for them, I'm not going to hear it. No, I'm well aware. I'm sitting there, I got it, guys. Because that's the thing. It's like sometimes when we are in the middle of a problem, or we're in the middle of a situation and we don't have answers, they're presented in different ways. And we have to be paying attention sometimes to hear that, whether it be something that somebody says on TV, a message on the radio, one of your friends says something. I was taking a class recently, and that morning before the class, my friend and I were talking about Russian nesting dolls. Okay. Don't know why. It just came up because we were talking about this. So later on in class, we were talking about chakras and things of that nature. And somebody in the class brings up, oh, so kind of in a way, it's like a Russian nesting doll. So when something is repeated, you kind of have to look at it. When you look at a Russian nesting doll, everything's compartmentalized when you think about it. It's all put in these little pieces that all fit together. But it expands. And when you think about our consciousness, it expands if we allow it. So while I'm rambling here about that, I think that if we actually start looking around and listening and see the opportunities and look at life with gratitude, because we are not promised tomorrow. At the end of her mother's life, she knew that her mom would always tell her to go sit in the sun. She knew taking her mom out in the sun, even though she couldn't see or couldn't hear, the warmth of the sun would be there for her to offer her compassion, to offer her love. And she was there with her daughters. So what better gift? So I look forward to seeing what Sherry's going to produce. The pictures that I saw on Instagram, the photo shoot, the backdrop is absolutely stunning and amazing. And if you haven't checked out her Instagram, you definitely should. And definitely check out her music. And hopefully, like I said, she'll have some new, as we discussed, she'll have music out this spring. So on that note, I'd like to thank Rich Zai from Third Ear Audio Productions for working on the audio. I'd like to thank Fast Susie for the intro and outro music. And most importantly, I'd like to thank you for tuning in, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you listen to the podcast, morning, noon, or night. I really do appreciate it. So until next time, I'll catch you then. Bye, guys.